Coming up in this episode, we just had the largest tech outage in history, so who's to blame? GM puts self-driving vehicle production on hold, and bad bots are dominating internet traffic. And make sure to stick around till the end for our AI-generated weekly themed outro song.
Welcome to the Not Null Podcast. I'm just an AI voice, but here are your real hosts, Kevin Doyle, Sarah Kimmel, and Bobby Davis.
All right, so being the only non-real coder in the group and the IT expert of the group, I get to talk about this really fun story that I'm sure nobody's ever heard about. Nobody in America has heard about the largest IT outage. I know, right? So imagine it's 1999 and you are in Hawaii and it's the turn of the century. So I am in Hawaii on December 31st, 1999. And I'm like, am I going to be able to get home tomorrow is the question. Are all the computers are going to completely crash? Well, it happened, except for just now.
It's just 24 years late.
It's just 24 years late. So what happened was CrowdStrike is basically an antivirus that a lot of large corporations use on different computers, did an update, and what it updated was in the kernel of the operating system. And when it did that, it basically blue screened every single computer that had that program. And unfortunately, there was a lot of companies using that program. I even had employees come and ask me, hey, are we going to have a problem today or anything? I'm like, no, we're fine. We don't use that program. So there was a lot of confusion, especially for people who are not as familiar with the IT space, like, oh, all these Windows computers are blue screening, and they're really blaming like Microsoft, thinking that any Microsoft computer is going to be vulnerable. They think it's an attack. They think it's a virus or things like that. No, really, it was just a really bad update that like tanked everything. So I have a fun story. Delta is, I think, one of the hardest hit from this entire situation.
Still recovering today, like days later.
Yeah. And so Salt Lake City being a Delta hub, there were, I have a friend whose child was on a humanitarian trip out of the country. Now, the humanitarian trip basically ends once they get back to the United States. Like, you have to get your child to the like Miami airport or LAX, and then they take the kid from LAX to the other country, whatever. But once you come back to LAX, then trip is over and there's no more leaders or anything like that. So they get back to Miami, and this 16-year-old girl is stranded in the Miami airport by herself for 72 hours until she was able to finally get a flight to Vegas and then Vegas to Salt Lake City. But 16-year-old girl by herself in the Miami airport. And I was just looking at our news, like, because there was apparently several kids in the same situation. Obviously, they weren't on the same humanitarian trip, but so they didn't know each other, that they were all like hanging out in the Miami airport by themselves for the last like 3 days. But I mean, I can't even imagine as a mom, my child stuck in an airport for that long of a time. Like, how can you fail in this massive, like, I just don't understand why, like,
not good.
How it took so long.
Because it's not like she had the option of going to get a hotel or something, is it? Or buy or get a rental car or do anything.
You get a hotel though? You could.
She's 16.
How's she going to get there? I mean, she could probably Uber, but like, I mean, a 16-year-old with their own hotel room, I don't even think she can.
I don't think you're allowed to.
Yeah.
You call and get it made for them.
The hotel chain doesn't care. Yeah, you could do that, but the hotel chain's not going to let a 16-year-old check in. The hotels won't even let 18-year-olds check in. You have to be 25 to check into a hotel. Like, it's just not a thing that's like an easy option to do.
I don't know. I'm a dad. I'd get it done.
Right.
It's like,
I mean, my friend was like this close to like flying down there,
Right,
like using some other like, and I think they might have I think they ended up booking her on like Southwest or something.
Right.
To
Yeah. I'm
get
booked on
her.
a different airline. Yeah.
Right. But like very expensive to get her out of Miami. And like, I just can't even imagine, but like, yeah. So Delta is still recovering. And this has been like, it's going to be almost a week by the time they're like fully operational, and it's crazy.
So one of the things I think happened, I don't know about Deltas, but what made this hard was in normal mode, there were some settings you put in the registry and just reboot the computer and it would work. So, but when you have racks and racks of computers, that could take some time.
Sure.
But the biggest problem people had was they encrypt the disks at rest, and then they store those keys on other computers, which were in turn bricked. And therefore, they couldn't reboot the machine because they couldn't get to the keys and they were bricked. So
they're using BitLocker?
BitLocker.
Yeah.
So that's a problem. So that I would imagine that no one thought about, well, the computer I put it on could be bricked. What do I do?
Yeah.
Imagine they're asking themselves that question today. I imagine that's what happened at Delta. And so what they're probably having to do is bring in brand new machines and put new machines up.
100%. 100%.
That's crazy, isn't it? That's crazy that's the solution to this. Because I think you're right. I think for a lot of people, the solution was there was a way you could delete a file and reboot it. But you have to have a certain level of access to even do that in the first place to the machine. Corporate PCs, you got no chance.
Yeah, but if you're in IT, you can reboot it in safe mode.
You can, but you had to do it on every single machine. Right. If you work at Bank of America and you're using this, that's a lot of machines you got to manually reboot and delete files on, right?
Yeah.
This is not, because the problem was you couldn't get past the initial boot, right? So you weren't in Windows, so you couldn't remote in, so you couldn't do anything remote. You couldn't push out an update.
No.
You had to do it on the machine. Yeah. Which was so difficult to do in this case, which then brings us back to, so who's at fault here? People have blamed CrowdStrike. They blame Microsoft. Mm-hmm. So then what happens? Did you see the story that Microsoft then pushed the blame to somebody?
Microsoft pointing the finger at the EU. So the reason they're blaming the EU is because they are not able to put a security feature on the Windows computer that would disable the ability for a third party to access that area in order to cause this kind of damage. So like, it's the EU's fault that we can't build our operating system the way we want to because you're limiting us.
And this is why you don't let politicians make software changes.
Exactly. This is why, I mean, Apple has resisted this same thing for the longest time. They shut this thing down. They don't have this. You can't do the same thing on a Mac OS. It's shut down. And I think Windows and Microsoft have wanted to do that, but because of the EU, cannot do that. So it's like, I don't know what's going to happen there. Are they going to force Mac OS to have the same vulnerability? Or are they finally going to realize, like maybe this isn't a good thing?
Just kidding, guys. Go do whatever you want. We're good.
So there's the same thing happens in gaming a lot. So there's a lot of these cheating detection softwares, a lot of BattleEye and those kind of things, and they'll brick your computer too.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because they're installed as rootkits. Basically, they run at the kernel level. So it's a problem. What I think there's a lot of bad takes on the internet of this, because I was looking at the internet and you see all the bad takes. The worst take all was like it was a DEI employee or someone that was unqualified pushed the change out, and I'm with Scott Hanselman, who I follow a lot, who I like a lot. These guys runs .NET over at Microsoft or whatever. So he works for Microsoft. He's got a skin in the game. He's like, dude, he says, even if it was the most junior of junior person that was completely unqualified, pushed the change and that's not how this update got pushed out like this. There's 1,000
It wasn't
other
one
people.
dude pushing a button.
Yeah,
Exactly.
He says, this is CrowdStrike. I mean, like he said this was a system-wide company failure, regardless of who the junior engineer was that pushed which I doubt was anyway.
Sure.
And they were
who has
all these
that
guys,
kind of access? Yeah.
It's possible, but not with CrowdStrike. It's not possible.
Right.
Like, it's just not possible. Like, if it is, then the CEO of the company needs to go down and go, how did this happen? And like, one guy pushed it, and then him and him alone. He
Right.
Frodo'd this thing all the way to the top. I mean, like, so, so
He's taking the One Ring.
yeah. So that's not what happened. And so, like, I thought that was a really bad take. The other bad take was, I think the president of CrowdStrike just came out and didn't apologize, just said, basically sucks to be you. I thought that was a bad take on his part, where he didn't say, we identified the fix, we're fixing it. And everyone's like, no apology, bro.
Right.
You just shut down the internet today.
Yeah, it is weird that he doesn't feel like he's responsible for it. I thought that too. Like, that does seem like a strange take, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But it makes you wonder, like, why does he feel that way? Like, is it like they made the mistake, but is it some other reasoning? And I'm guessing for whatever it was, I guess there is some technical thing behind it. I didn't I don't understand it fully technically, but something to do with a null reference pointer.
A null pointer in C#
null
or
pointer
C++.
Yeah, so there you go. It's something, basically it's like pointing at something that doesn't exist, right?
Right.
So that's what kind of crashed it and blue screened or whatever. But it's like, So I don't understand it fully from a technical point, but sure. I mean, if somebody should have found that, I'm guessing. And
should have been tested.
Right. So why wouldn't CrowdStrike be like, feel responsible for it? It seems weird that they don't. And they kind of pushed it onto Microsoft, and then Microsoft just kind of didn't push back at CrowdStrike. They pushed back to EU, which is like, this is just
Your
like
fault.
passing
Your
the
fault.
blame along this line of...
And in Microsoft's defense, it wasn't their fault. It's another piece of software that's running on it. But I think when you look at the stock market and you look at price and you look at all the takes on the internet, Microsoft largely got blamed for this. No one's really blaming CrowdStrike for this. Right. Everyone says, why aren't you using Linux? The worst take was all, it's like, you only run Macs in production. I'm like, these are servers, man. They don't have one that no one wants to use, or they would. I mean,
Yes.
Yeah, I've got these Mac servers, this rack of Macs.
It's just not happening. So so it's just not realistic, and
no,
it's just really a lot of bad takes, a lot of people like showing how they would fix the code and stuff like that. And it's just like really our programmers, sometimes we're just kind of insane when we have bad takes. Yeah.
Like I said, most like lay people who don't know technology only saw that it was Microsoft computers, and
that's what the news said. That was what was all over the news. Like, Windows dies, blue screens of death, right? It's a bad look for them. They didn't. They don't know anything about CrowdStrike. They're just like, okay, I don't know what that is, but I know what Microsoft Windows is, and so I think CrowdStrike probably became a household name over the weekend.
Yeah.
because if you hadn't heard of it before, then you have now. Yeah. But this goes to show you that for me, this is like one of those situations where when a company does so well and they're on so many, like they own the Fortune 500 space, right? But the Fortune 500 space is what powers the world. So when they have a piece of software that goes down that affects every single one of their customers, this is where
you don't use it anymore.
Exactly. You don't use it anymore. This is where fragmentation is a feature, right? Like every not using the same thing is a literal feature, because this took down almost all the airlines, right? Let's say one of the airlines wasn't using it. They'd have been like, we're good to go. Like, they'd have had people fly, all their flights sort of in full.
Have you seen the tweet from Southwest? Like, I think I downloaded it.
Did they not use it?
No, they don't. And it was a funny tweet. I wonder if I can find it again.
But that's what we need, right? We need fragmentation in in a space like this, because when one of these things does go down like this, which is always going to happen, I don't care what happened and how many things you put in place to fix it again, something else will happen that will take this thing down again, or something else like this, where it is one of these infrastructure things that nobody knows exists until it doesn't work.
Right.
It will happen again. So the more players we have in those spaces that do these things, the better it is for kind of humanity, because we rely on it so much.
I would think that airlines would have I know they can't do it because of cost, but it seems like you would be rotating servers in and out of production, and you would have 40 of these boxes on a shelf.
See, that would be too smart and cost too much money. But
it may be 1,000 servers. I'm not really sure how many they have. I mean, they probably have quite a bit more than I'm thinking. I mean, there's a lot. I'm sure they're thinking about those questions today.
I'm sure
the problem is holding stuff on a rack that's not used is a cost, and then it ages out. And so in cloud, you're supposed to be able to just scale up anything. So apparently they're not totally in the cloud or something like that. I'm not sure exactly how they're put together. It seems like they could have spun up things in the cloud and Get rid of the other box and pull them out.
Do you think some kind of like virtual machine solution could have like been a better fix here? Is that
maybe it's really expensive to run Delta on that, or they haven't done that yet?
Sure.
I don't really know. I can guarantee you that it's very, very complex what they're doing.
Right. Oh, I'm sure. Yeah.
And so there's a lot, and then a lot of it's probably fairly old too that runs. Same way with banks. It's not like they run cutting edge because it just works and they just need to keep it working.
Yeah.
So it's a tough nut to crack. So I don't really call them dumb for not being able to do it. I am surprised they're the only ones that haven't fixed it yet. So like, they're definitely the slowest on the uptake here, so, but it is a tough nut to crack. So I feel bad for them. Yeah. I don't like the bad takes on the internet where people just assume things are easy. It's like the guy who said he could fix Twitter in 2 weeks and Elon hired him. Then he quit 2 weeks later.
Oh, did he?
Yeah.
I didn't see that one.
I also think this is one of those things where we heard about big things, right? So we heard about airlines. There was some news, Sky News in the UK, like couldn't do the news because their computers were down. Yeah. It's like they couldn't do TV, right? It's like
911 operators.
911 operators was another big one. Yeah,
those.
like essential infrastructure things. But then there's also things that are more fringe, like I saw a thing about the trucking industry came to a standstill because they couldn't load and unload the trucks because none of the computers works. Mm-hmm. It's like there's all these fringe like use cases where I'm sure there was some food places they just couldn't, like the tills were down or whatever because they're using Windows and they couldn't fix it. There was a lot of people. DMV was down, right? I actually went to the DMV yesterday to renew my license. They were telling me that they had leftovers from Friday because the computers were all down on Friday.
Yeah.
There was hundreds and hundreds of industries that got an outage from. This is what makes it the largest thing because it affected Windows. It was the core system that everybody uses. And if you use CrowdStrike in combination with that, you were down. That was it. Windows and CrowdStrike, you were down.
Right.
And understand why Microsoft tweeted this. One of the lead engineers said it was only 1% of all machines in the U.S. from Windows. And I'm like, that's a bad take, bro.
I'm also not buying it. I don't believe it's got to be larger.
It was 8.5 million machines, they said, that had CrowdStrike on it.
That's so many, yeah.
But that's 1%
every
of the
single
machines.
That's crazy. Well, this is because, don't forget, you're counting the PC that's on my desk in that, right? So Correct. It's like, mine's not going to go down. I don't use CrowdStrike, right? Right, exactly. So, I get it. If you counted how many percentage of business machines went down, it's way more than 1%.
That is
It's however many percentage of market CrowdStrike has.
Right.
That's how many went down. So find whatever that number is, that's what went down.
Yeah, there's no such thing as bad publicity, except for in this case, I think.
But I think the funniest tweet was Scott Hanselman, who I follow over .NET. And his funniest tweet was, he says, I hate it when I get blamed for something my roommate did.
That's a good take. That's
a good take. I was like, that man is funny. I thought that was pretty funny.
And this is why Microsoft's like, wasn't us. Like, we didn't do it. It was EU and CrowdStrike or whoever. Just wasn't us.
So as we move to other technology that could take over large sectors of things we do every day, we drive cars. And so now GM has ended one of their cars. I think they have a couple of driverless car models. This one is the one without a steering wheel. Basically, you could sit around it, and talk in the middle, have a campfire in the middle of it and drive it around. I think that's the car they're not going to have anymore, but they're going to still pursue the cruise. And so this self-driving car brings up debate. Do we really need self-driving cars? And today, self-driving cars, I think from Waymo, got released in San Francisco, full availability. So now if you're in San Francisco, LA, or Phoenix, you can get a self-driving car. So I'm going to mention a couple of movies here, iRobot being one of them. So the second one, if you haven't seen it, it's called Upgrade. It's a low, very well done thriller movie, but the AI takes over the driverless cars, leads this guy to a field in order to kill him or maim him so that he could upgrade his body with AI hardware. So go watch it. It's a really great movie. Really great movie. It is a really great movie about AI and driverless cars and biometrics and upgrading people. So they made him crippled so that he could be a test candidate for this. But he used a car to do it. So do we think driverless cars are a thing? Would you get in one if you were in Phoenix, LA? Are you scared of them or? You think it's just never really going to work good?
So I don't know if you know this about me, but I have two fears in my life. One of them is needles. Like, I am deathly afraid of needles. I have an autoimmune disease where I have to get a shot every 2 weeks. So yay me. The second is driving. Like, I am
Just driving, period.
Period.
Okay.
I was in 7 car accidents before the time I turned 20. And I am terrified. Like, I mean, I still drive every day, but I am terrified behind the wheel when I'm behind the wheel. When my husband is behind the wheel, like, I usually have to close my eyes like the entire time because like I am so stressed out about him driving. I could not handle a self-driving car. I would I would flip right the heck out, and like I would never recover. My anxiety would be through the roof. And I don't have anxiety except for when I'm in a car.
Okay, Kevin,
I would totally go in one. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, I would. I would in a heartbeat. Here's the thing. I would go in one for a very short trip. Like, I would try it. I'd be one of the, for the first time, I'd definitely try it. For sure. Just to see what it was like. I kind of like the idea. The fact that they cancelled this kind of car too, though, this one, like one without like human controls, right?
Mm-hmm.
It kind of sucks, but I get it, right? Like, it'd be nice to have that because I guess you can fit a bunch of stuff in it, right? And it's like you can fit like 4-6 people in it or whatever, and a bunch of like luggage or whatever. It's great to go to the airport or something like that. That'd be great. But I'm guessing there's a whole bunch of regulations around like having a car like that doesn't have human controls in it that literally isn't set yet, right? We're like, it's new law. I'm guessing that they'd have to try and like jump through and try and create to make those cars a thing on the road. So I get why they're not doing it, because somebody's got to pave the way at some point, but maybe they're like, maybe it's not us yet. Maybe we're not quite ready for that yet. I've always said all along that there is a period of like, that is the most difficult time with self-driving cars. And it's the period of self-driving cars existing with human drivers. It's the most like dangerous like combination ever, mainly because of the human driver part. If all the cars were self-driving, I think we'd be fine. I think they could automate between each other and it would be great. Throw a human in that mix, forget it. I've seen how humans drive.
All right, well, I got one article for you, Kevin. We got the Waymo article where the cop pulled the driverless car over for driving the wrong way on the road.
Yes, they make mistakes. They do.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. So the Waymo got pulled over, right? Driving the wrong way on the road.
Yeah.
How many times does that happen in a day in the US where humans are pulled over for driving the wrong way on the road? I'm guessing more. My guess is the percentage. I'm guessing that the AI car drives better than a human on average.
Unless it has CrowdStrike in it, right?
Well, then it's just bricked, right?
I'm not going anywhere today.
I guess technically I have no problem getting in one. Are they going to get into accidents? Yeah, they are. I mean, they just are. And then it comes down to, and they have done, right? There was one last year with a Waymo. The Waymo got their thing pulled, right? Originally, didn't they get their license pulled or whatever?
In San Francisco,
One of them did, right?
Mm-hmm.
In San Francisco, because it hit the lady up, right? So some car had hit a lady in a crosswalk or something, and the Waymo car then hit the lady after she'd been hit and dragged her down the road or something, right? So the only reason we know about that story is because it was a self-driving car. That accident's happened 100 times in the US this week, right? But with humans, but we haven't heard about it. It doesn't make the news, right? Because it's not a self-driving car. So is it going to have the same kind of accidents? Yeah, it is. That's just how it works. So we have this bar for self-driving that is perfection, right? And I think maybe we should have a perfection bar. I don't know, but the bar for human driving is like, have you taken a test recently? Like it's in the US especially. It's the easiest thing ever. It's like, oh, can you see that car in front of you? Do you know how the steering with steering? Yeah, check. Okay, here's your license. It's the easiest thing ever to get. It genuinely is. I was shocked when I first came here to know how easy it was to get a driver's license.
His permit test, like,
come on,
how, Sarah? How?
It must be harder in Utah than it is in North Carolina.
Is it? Easy?
You know it is. You know it's easy. It's one of the easiest things ever. But I guess it comes with experience too, right? It's like it is one of those things you need experience with. I understand that. But still, it is very simplistic. The bar is much lower, I feel, for humans to get a license than it is the bar that we've set for the AI. And then the other question that I have is, when the automated car runs somebody over and kills them, who's liable? Because if I do that, it's me. Right? I'm liable for it. Is Waymo liable? And if they are, they're not criminally liable, surely.
It's a corporate accident is what I would think it would be.
So then who
same way if
who's
a train
criminally
derails,
liable? The guy that wrote the code? The guy that owns the company?
No one is. The corporate can get fined civilly. I don't think there's a criminal charge unless you're
that's
grossly negligent.
Right. So lawyer Sarah here. But yeah, you have to be doing something like completely negligent or where you fail in such a way that any reasonable person would see that this would result in death, right? Like,
yeah, but it's not a person. So how can we apply those same rules to the
corporation is a person, yeah.
Right. So if the corporation is doing things like maybe they didn't do enough QA or something like that, or they're like, this is a lethal weapon and you didn't test this well enough in order to make it safe. Where is that? Like, but they would have to prove that it was a glitch in the software and not the girl darting across the road, not in a crosswalk or something like that.
It's going to be interesting, isn't it? Because somebody's going to test this. It's going to be tested.
Programmers in general have immunity from a lot of this stuff. You usually have errors and omissions and things like that. You should, if you do consulting work. But you also have to show, like, wantonly or knowingly, I did this for this particular purpose. Like, you're allowed to make a mistake, even if it does cause death. The company would have to pay. I don't think you can get criminal for a coder rolling out something that caused someone to die, unless they knowingly did it. Now, if they programmed it to seek people out, that's a whole different
Well, I don't think
case.
that's the scenario. I'm saying, like, what if they forget? Yeah, what if they forget a particular scenario though, or something like it? Like, it has to make a decision, right, at some point.
I would say the same thing for CrowdStrike. We can go back to the CrowdStrike story. Whoever rolled out the code, I mean, they're not going to have to be in debt for $1 billion for all the losses that everyone said. Now, they may sue CrowdStrike and they may win on that, but I imagine there's a contract.
Yeah, but there's a difference between monetary losses and loss of life, surely, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, because it kind of makes me think of the Alec Baldwin Rust case, where he is, an actor who usually holds a gun and points it at people and pulls the trigger as part of his scene, right? So, in gun safety, you never point a gun at a person, but an actor is doing that all the time, right? So
they usually don't point it at other people. They usually point it at a camera, but like for some reason they
But sometimes, I mean, when you're looking at a shot where like there's two actors, like, and they're pointing guns at each other, like,
right.
There's, in the Matrix, she's got a gun to his head, right?
Right. I agreed.
Right.
I mean, so there's instances where they're literally pointing a gun at a person and they are expecting that gun is not active, right? So how is Alec Baldwin criminally liable for the gun shooting Elena Hutchins? Because they
proved it.
Well, they didn't.
Kind of. I mean, don't forget, they took him to court because of it. So it got that
civilly. Yeah.
Well, right. So the civil cases, but criminally, it was only dismissed because of the prosecutor's gross, not incompetence, but like, I forget the word, but anyway,
they mishandled evidence,
the disclosures or whatever.
Yeah. But I mean, but it's kind of the same thing. If you have a reasonable expectation that the car is going to do what it is programmed to do, then are you criminally liable if somebody gets killed? I
don't think so at this point. I mean, at this point. Now, let me ask you another
somebody
question.
will test it.
Yeah, someone will test it.
Yeah, let's go.
They will. Somebody will test it. We'll be watching this on court TV in like a year's time.
These cars will eventually kill someone. I mean, there's going to be an accident where someone's
no
killed.
doubt.
Yeah.
Yep.
Let me ask you another question. Are you looking for the day to when you can like send your car while you're at the office out on DoorDash runs and you make a little side cash?
Yeah.
You rent your car out to DoorDash?
I'd like that.
Do you think that's going to be a thing? Like, do you think we're heading there?
Well, they're definitely not. I mean, their local restaurant isn't going to buy a fleet of cars.
No.
They're already using DoorDash.
Yeah. Well, right. But I mean, so if I send my car to pick up my, Subway, like, is the restaurant just going to put it in the car? Like, what is their protocol on that? Like, what if I just send my car to Subway randomly, thinking that somebody else has probably placed an order and they're just going to put the order in my car instead? And I mean, I don't know. Like, I don't know how you regulate that I'm like putting the order in with
QR
license
code,
plates
man.
or whatever.
I think
where are they scanning the QR code from, though? Like
your little window. You have a little window.
Are they going into the car? I mean, I can imagine, see it happening, but I'm like, logistically, that's kind of.
Let me rephrase it this way: are you looking forward to your car going to pick up the groceries so you don't have to go get them?
Yeah.
Yes, please. Yes, please. Can we just solve that problem today? Because I would love that.
I have my daughter for that. It's fine.
Yes, that would be amazing. I could see the solution where you're like, you send your car to pick up your Subway, it gets to the Subway, and they have some kind of a phone or something on mobile device, and you have a QR sticker on the car or something, or it gets some kind of location thing towards the car, and you get near the car and it kind of unlocks the car or whatever.
Yeah,
just
GPS
like some of those apps
fencing.
do that now. Yeah, geofencing, whatever.
Yeah.
And then it unlocks it, you put it on the seat and you close the door and it drives back. I could see that being a thing.
That'd be awesome.
I think we have that technology already.
Bobby's like, now. I need one now.
I mean, I think we have that technology now. The self-driving cars could do that. The restaurants could adopt something like that. I think the technology part is there. I just don't think the idea or the infrastructure part is there yet, but I think it will be. I do. I think that'll be a thing. Now, whether it's like all of our cars doing it once they all have kind of a self-driving mechanism, I don't know. I could certainly see like these cruise cars doing it. If they're not like picking somebody up, like what could they do? They could DoorDash.
Yeah.
Sure. Would you get in a self-driven Uber? Like
that's coming.
If Uber converts their whole fleet to,
that's what this Waymo is.
I think it's the same thing. Yeah, I would.
Oh,
I think Elon says, back in April, he said he's going to have his driverless cars out August 8th. Kevin told me this morning, well, he's pushed it back to October. So Tesla eventually will have a driverless taxi.
Vaporware. or ever or never, because it's Elon. He just says things. He just says things. The dude just says things. He doesn't do anything. He's words. Until he actually does something, I don't believe a word the guy says anymore.
Is that website still up that we talked about a while ago?
I'm sure it is.
All
Exactly.
All the things Elon has said he'll.
There is a reason there is a website exactly of Elon promises that are unfulfilled. This is just another one of them. Add it to the list. So in 2023, get this, only 52% of global internet traffic was actually human traffic. So what's the rest? The rest is bots. So what is a bot, right? So a bot is basically a piece of software, something that's usually fully automated that runs kind of a repetitive task. So think of it as just being a software. It's not a little robot that's moving stuff around. It's a little piece of software that lives on the internet and does things, right? So here's some examples. Good bots and bad bots. They fall into one of generally two categories. So good bots, things like search engine bots. So they crawl websites. A Google bot. It goes to websites, it pulls all the information and it indexes that information, adds it to the search algorithm, so you can then search for that information. That's a search bot. Shopping bots. They scan websites for prices. So you see a bunch of these where it's like, what's the best price on this? Your little shopping bot has found the best price and it's on whatever it is, Amazon.com or whatever. So there's lots of like valid bots on the internet that are doing good work, that help people, that help consumers, whatever. But there's also a whole bunch of what is called bad bots. So these bad bots accounted for more than 1/3 of all internet traffic are these bad bots, right? So these are things like DDoS bots. So distributed denial of service. So basically a whole bunch of these little programs go and attack a website, right? They all go to the website at the same time and they basically overwhelm the website and take the website down. So there's a bunch of DDoS bots. They're bad. Credential stuffing bots. Things like they use stolen credentials and try and access a whole bunch of websites. So they've got your password and username that leaked somewhere, and they're taking that username and password and trying to fill out that username and password on hundreds, if not thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of sites to see if they can access that. There's not a person typing those in, it's a bot doing that work. Ad fraud bots. So they go to the websites clicking on ads or simulating clicking on ads because they make money when you click on those ads, right? Costing the person who's running that ad to click on those ads. So this traffic was 1/3 or over 1/3 now of internet traffic, which is crazy. And it's only going up. This is the chart that shows the difference between humans, good bots, and bad bots. Bad bots only going up. Good bots also going up. Humans going down. So it shows you what the internet is technically becoming. But, you know, surely there's ways to fix this, right? Like this is fixable, surely. So what about capture? Things that actually like catch bots, right? That's what captures. Well, that's what capture's for, right? Isn't that the intention? That it says everybody's seen this. I am human, right? You check the I am human box.
When there's a little corner of a handlebar, and you're like, is the bike in that square or not in that square?
Yes, that's the
stress of my life.
So it's designed to be kind of a digital Turing test, right? The point is it's trying to test. It's a little test that says, are you a human doing this? And the problem is there are now easy ways around this. This is one that I just found after a couple of minutes of searching. This is called CapSolver. This is a program that you can run. It has an API, so you can develop on this too. But it also has a Chrome extension as well, and a Firefox extension that will basically solve capture for you at the cost of, depending on what kind of capture you're trying to solve. This bot will solve captures as low as $1 for 1,000 requests. So you can put 1,000 requests into this for $1. It will solve 1,000 captures. So what does that mean? You could create 1,000, let's say, I don't know, Facebook accounts or something using this, bypassing the capture. So capture's just not a thing anymore. It doesn't. Capture is not the problem. It is not the solution to this problem. It's just not. Have you guys seen these new captures, by the way? I don't even know what to call it. I had one last week, and it was a 20-part, and I kid you not.
20-part?
I kid you not, a 20-part.
No website
capture.
is worth that hoop.
Yeah, right, exactly. And they look like this. So look, 1 of 20. This is an exact example of 1 of 20. This is exactly the capture that I went through. And it's asking you here on the left, it's saying, use the arrows to change the number of objects until it matches the left image. So this is saying 1 aeroplane. So you tab through these images until there's only an image of 1 aeroplane, and you submit. Right? That's the capture. There are some that are even more nefarious with dice and with numbers. This one really, gosh. I got this one too last week. This
you got to add the numbers together?
You've got to add the numbers together.
Come on, man. Most people can't do that.
I'm not.
Well, think just how long it takes. Because some of them
20 times. 20 times.
And look at here. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. There's like 12 or 13 options, by the way. You've got to tab through until you get the number 28.
Yeah.
Nothing I want is worth that. It won't happen. I will give up.
At least make it fun. Give me a controller. Kill the alien.
Right.
You know, something like that.
Exactly.
Then the aimbot comes out. You know. Then
here's the thing too, though. Capture solvers, they can already solve these. This is just a massive inconvenience to the person. So, with all that said, Bobby, what do you think? Is the internet doomed unless we fix this trend?
Well, I think vast majority of social media is all bots. You can't tell me, like, when certain things get announced, like suddenly there's 10 million posts about it. So maybe everyone's on the trend, or maybe the bots make the trend. I think the bots make the trend, or whatever that is.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what the event is, the news of the day. So whether that's Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Threads, Facebook, LinkedIn, you'll see the same kind of information all over the place on any given day. And I think that most of them are bots. The problem with this is you can't believe if a social media influencer is really an influencer. They really have 1 million views. Is that post really liked 10,000 times? I mean, like, really? Rocky Road is your favorite ice cream. 1 million people said that. You know, like, I don't believe it. You know, so like chocolate's clearly the number one. So like those are the types of things. And it gets more nefarious too, more underhanded, with politics, which is a lot of what everyone's interested in. Can they influence how you vote based on your favorite influencer liking this, or these other no-name accounts suddenly putting all of these kind of replies to something? You're like, wow, that's what people think? Wow, okay. Maybe I am an idiot. And so I think that's a problem. So I don't know what the solution is other than some kind of centralized, like I Am Human site where you go and give your digital ID and then you have to use that digital ID across all websites. But but then that ruins the internet in general because the internet was built on being anonymous.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
The bots that I really hate are the shopping bots that steal all of my Awalas so that they can mark them up for hundreds of dollars and buy. You use a shopping bot, Bobby?
No, I built one. So so back in the day, Ticketmaster, back in the day, and this is like in the early 90s, worked at a consulting company, and we wrote one of the first ticket buying things. And I actually say my claim to fame, if I ever had one, is I changed the terms of service on Ticketmaster. So we took someone.
You're the original Napster.
we took this bank of credit cards and then bought, I think it was at the time, it was Bruce Springsteen, every ticket in like 8 seconds. And then the guy took the tickets and resold them. At the time, we didn't think anything was wrong. But then the more you thought about it, like, that's kind of
bad.
Sketchy. Ticketmaster didn't like it, and so, but man, he said, how many tickets can you buy? And we said, all of them.
Yeah.
If you have enough money.
Right. And we did.
We did. We bought them all. Like he got the whole floor section to Bruce Springsteen on like multiple venues all at once.
Wow.
So we, then Ticketmaster said you can't do that.
Just to be clear, everybody, that is an example of a bad bot.
It's a bad bot.
That falls into the 30% category.
It was a gray bot in 1992, though. I mean,
yes, yeah.
No one had done it.
First of its kind.
True. It's now firmly moved into bad bot.
If someone approached me today, the consulting company today, and said, "Would you write a bot to do something?" I wouldn't do that today. I mean, because it's just like there's terms of service,
Yeah.
I don't like the thing where you go on Amazon today and based on how you're logged in, you get a different price. I mean, like that's another bot on the opposite side serving me up. If I'm logged in with corporate Amazon, the TV's $900. If I'm logged in with personal Amazon, it's $400. Like,
yeah, that's
the same television, man. Like, what are we doing? So like, there's a lot. I don't know. I think bots can be used for good and bad. I don't see it going anywhere, Kevin. I see it getting worse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you'd mentioned something here before, Bobby. You'd mentioned a new top level domain. I think that could be part of the solution to this. Yeah. That obviously has its issues and its things that have to be solved. And I think that may be in combination with like this way to verify humanness or something, whatever you want to call it, is a thing. You do realize, by the way, that one of those things is WorldCoin. By the way, them
I know.
proving humanness,
or the orb
exactly the orb that WorldCoin had. Was an idea to solve that exact problem. Remember that? We talked about everybody that's the thing we talked about where you scanned your iris, it proved that it was you, and you created the digital version of yourself based on your unique iris. So it digitally fingerprinted you, I guess, based on, or I scanned you, like fingerprint eye scan.
Yeah.
Gave you a digital presence.
The big problem with those centralized identities, which I think could be built, is that someone's in charge of the identities, and then they're the gatekeeper of all of the internet. And they can keep people from buying and selling goods or getting on any internet site. Yep. And that's not fair. I mean, so I don't think those things ever go anywhere because at the end of the day, while it's inconvenient, we'd rather at least be able to surf my Facebook account, this kind of stuff. So
but maybe there's some combination of that and some kind of blockchain thing that makes it public so that no one entity kind of owns it. There's some technical solution there, I think, but I agree. It's like, how do you then agree what goes on top level domain? How do you agree who stores your profile? Is there choice in that? Is there some kind of like, I could see in the future there being some kind of like standard, right? There's just some kind of like, I am a human standard that is also open enough so that you could host that wherever you wanted to, or something along those lines. And so I initially thought the WorldCoin thing was dumb, the scan of the eye thing, but maybe I'm thinking maybe it's not as dumb of an idea as I thought it originally was, because this does solve a problem that is now only getting worse. But here's the thing, bearing in mind, by the way, I would just put a caveat on this. the creator of WorldCoin, Sam Altman, is also the creator of the guy that's filling the internet with these terrible bots and this terrible content. So he's like, created the problem? Oh, yeah? Here's the solution.
Hey,
it's like,
that's how you make millions and millions of dollars, is create a problem and solve it.
Exactly. He is solving his own problem.
Got the key and the lock.
Which I do feel is kind of sketchy.
I think he's sketchy in general. Like, I don't trust him to be the gatekeeper of all this. I don't want any government entity either. A lot of people say, well, just give it to the government. They can be trusted. And I just don't think that. We've seen how the EU operates if you give them enough power. They'll just keep taxing you until you can't do it anymore, until someone finally says that's enough.
Can you imagine letting the government decide who was on top level domain? Because right now, they let Threads on, but not Truth Social.
Right.
If we get a Republican president, they're going to be Truth Social and not Threads. So it's it's so politicized. There is no down the middle. It can't be a government entity doing it.
Oh, look, and I have blue and red fingernails.
Look at you.
Wow, prepared much?
I'm like, oh, hey, that was kind of convenient. Like, you'd have to have both sides, blue and red, of the coin, in charge at least.
We've seen it to where a lot of the things that have been happening, a lot of people did get deplatformed for whatever reason. You can say it's warranted or whatever, but they also debanked people. And that's what caused Rumble and all these other things to get created. Are they as prevalent as the other ones? No. But that's what people said. Well, build your own thing. And so, which isn't always the answer. It's like, well, yeah, but
nobody's there.
I mean, no one's over there. I mean, like,
you're
why
in a total echo chamber there. Where,
and so like, it's a problem. And I don't think people or corporations should control what an individual can do at that level. Because we do need the internet pretty much at this day and age. And there's probably people out there like, I don't
clearly because it completely shut down.
Exactly.
Yes. Yeah.
And so you could take a company down if you don't like them. You could do lots of things. And so I think that while I do think a digital ID is a good thing, I just don't know who or how that can be pushed down an open way where it's not centralized. So it needs to be a decentralized ID that everyone can check.
Yeah.
So maybe like blockchain, but that's slower than dirt. It just wouldn't work.
Yeah.
Right.
If you had to wait 8 seconds to log in to anything, it would be kind of
right. But maybe that's the thing. Maybe that is the solution here, is some kind of way of making that faster or something, or I don't know,
But it's billions though. It's like it's billions.
Right. But maybe there's a technical solution. If that is the problem, if just speed is a problem, there's some kind of caching solution or something, some way of some way of making that part faster. But I think there's a lot of invention has to happen for that to work.
Another thing too is like you can look at like YouTube hacking, where people stole the credential out of YouTube with bad Chrome extensions, and suddenly they lost their websites. Yeah, and like, okay, that's not bad. You lose a website, but what if someone stole your ability to log in, and then suddenly they could log into your bank and they could log into everything?
I think that's one of the biggest really issues with having a centralized, having some kind of centralized identity is how do you protect that centralized identity? That is literally the number one on the list, isn't it? Having it is one thing and what it enables. And then the very next thing is, how is it secure?
You need the red button, you can push it. So like someone's got it, stop. Nothing logs in until I fix this. That's what you need. So
just install CrowdStrike. It's fine.
It's CrowdStrike.
They've got it for you. They've got it.
They could definitely shut things down. They did it. So.
Okay, well, that's it for this week's episode of the Not Null Podcast. If I could ask you to do a couple of things, please let a friend know about the podcast, and please leave us a rating and a review wherever you listen to this podcast. Or if you listen on YouTube, give us a thumbs up, a like and a subscribe, as they say on the YouTubes. To get notifications of new episodes. You can also drop us an email. Where can they send that to, Sarah?
The Not Null Podcast at AOL.com.
That's it. Or you can also send us a text. There is a link in the show notes where you can send us a text. Please go ahead and drop us a text.
We can't text you back, but we can get it.
But we can read it. We can see it. And we'll mention it if it's worth mentioning.
Right.
And we'll see everybody next week.
2022 watches that reality Servers went dark, the lights went out. In the world of cyber, there's no room for doubt. CrowdStrike faltered in the midst of the night. Security's finest lost their fight. Firewalls fell, defenses breached. A lesson in tech within our reach. Data left hanging, threads unwound. In the silence there's a haunting sound. CrowdStrike, striking the crowd. Microsoft Windows is falling down. CrowdStrike, striking the crowd. No one's going anywhere, staying on the ground. Engineers scrambling, trying to restore the fortress we trusted, shaken to the core. Users in panic, fingers to the keys. A cyber nightmare brought to its knees. Promises of strength, now put to test. A glitch in the armor, no time to rest. Resilience rises in the face of defeat. Picking up pieces, finding our feet. CrowdStrike, striking the crowd. Microsoft Windows is falling down. CrowdStrike, striking the crowd. No one's going anywhere, staying on the ground. Echoes of lessons in the breach you wake. In the tech world there's no room for mistake. Together we stand through the glitch and the grind.